Thank you so much to the panelists for this enriching discussion on assessments. What better way to move on from here than to listen to Professor Milind Sohoni? Dr. Sohoni teaches at the Computer Science and Engineering Department of IIT Bombay, as well as CTARA, an academic center of the institute devoted to technology and development. He is a unique combination of a development practitioner and a computer scientist. We are very keen to listen to Sir as he unravels the Unnat Bharat Abhiyan and examines various roles of higher education in India through the third keynote address of the day. He couldn't make it here in person, but he will be joining us virtually. So just give us a minute.
Okay, so thank you very much for giving me this platform. So I am Milind Sohoni. I've been teaching in IIT Bombay in various departments, computer science and at CTARA. I was the head of CTARA for 4 years. So I'm going to talk about not Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, but Unnat Maharashtra Abhiyan. Slightly different, but quite different. And let us now. So I'm going to talk about its motivation and its implementation. So first of all, the talk is in 4 parts. I'm going to talk about development, what brings it about, what sort of social structure assumptions are inherent in the way we frame it. Then I'm going to talk about Unnat Maharashtra Abhiyan, innovation, how to bring development into the curriculum. Then I would go on to a simpler experiment which we are trying last year. It's called Aaple Paryavaran. It's a case study program. And then finally, I'm going to try and link up with what I've seen as the sort of the as agenda of the workshop. Connecting higher and high school education as well. So let me first begin with development as a broader societal question. So I mean, I think that within 100 kilometers of Bombay, you see all these pictures. You see how small enterprises, what kind of technology, what engineering, what business models they have. We've seen Sadak Bijli Pani and the conditions, and our women are still using chulas to a great extent. So this we know is the background. We see all of this around us. And there are basically 3 questions. What are, where are good jobs going to come from for our young people? And how will basic amenities improve? The Sadak Bijli Pani, ST, and who will save our MSMEs, the small enterprises, be it Ganpati factories, carpenters, and so on. And all of the 3 are connected really with what ails our education system. So this is really how to connect. I mean, essentially, there's a lot of demand for basic amenities and basic, there are a lot of problems like pollution or sustainability issues. And there's a lot of supply of good labor, but somehow they don't seem to be meeting. So what is really going wrong? So we would like to answer these questions. So, I mean, if you begin with simple questions, development, why did Chiplun flood again? Where the reservoir gets really open. How many people actually died in COVID? How should we have prepared for hospital beds? Should they have been 1 per 1,000, 1 per 10,000? Why are there potholes and why is there persistent malnutrition? Some of these are, all of these are development questions. So some of them are unexpected events, but most of them are regular course, right? And most are related to the performance of the state and maybe some of them of the market. So, I mean, if you ask people, they'll say, well, there are a variety of answers you will get. Politicians are corrupt. They do not take correct decisions. People are foolish or uneducated, undisciplined. State is bureaucratic. Top bureaucracy is competent, not competent, and so on. So you see, you get a variety of reasons, and there is no real framework by, how we can analyze these things, right? So the simplest picture that we have is that there are people, this is the most common picture. There are people, there are politicians, and then there is the state and the private sector. And, people elect the politicians sort of control or, the state and private sector who deliver us all the basic amenities, right? But this offers a very limited understanding because it tends to blame politicians, and we know that most politicians, do not have the wherewithal to. I mean, for example, look at pollution. What are politicians going to do about it? Right? Not clear. So I think a more nuanced model is the UPSC model. That well, actually, there are bureaucrats, the IS officers, the chief engineers, and the secretaries and so on, and it is they who formulate policies and by or rules and regulations. So politicians enact laws while the actual policies and the small print comes from the bureaucrats, and that is how this happens. And this particular vision has now, in the Man Ki Baat era, it's now basically honest and decisive leadership, like the great honest politician or great visionary can actually make things turn around, right? That's something which is very attractive for us common people. That yeah, maybe the right noble king will actually make things turn around. So, but that's not going to work. I'm going to argue that knowledge and science is really important, and the question is that who's going to deliver it? So, if you see, if you come back to the question, why are potholes on our road? So there may be a tendering issue, weaknesses. Can our municipal corporation really issue the right tenders? Are there ready mixes? Do we have the technology? Why did Chiplun flood again? How much did it actually rain? Are we really observing stuff? And so on. So if you see that, all of these questions are really connected with the conduct of knowledge. Do we really know adequate to solve these questions? And the answer really is no, we don't really know. And so that brings us to the question that, who is going to generate this knowledge, right? How does this knowledge really come about? And how did this knowledge enter into the developmental state? And there we see that there is something more. There are these scientific agencies like MPCB, Pollution Control Board, the State Groundwater Agency, and then there are laws and regulations. So the state really functions through this, through these documents, and they need to be carefully designed, right? So basically, fortunately or unfortunately, Government of India, by the Constitution, most of the knowledge sector is really handled by the Government of India. If you look at the S&T, it's in the central list, right? So most of these university professors, professions, what do they teach? What should a planner know? What should an architect know? What should an engineer know? Economist, the curriculum for an economist, and CPCB, Central Water Commission, all of this really comes under the purview of Government of India. So, what we know is that there is really a shortage of knowledge, and we know that the change has to come, and that it is going to come, and most of it is in the hands of Government of India. So this we know. And so really, if you look at study Government of India and its institutions, I don't need to go about it, this presentation with you, but we know how the IITs work, we know what Central Water Commission is doing, and we know what sort of jobs that our elite graduates take. So I don't think we need to go into that. We know that it's not going to work. So essentially, if you look at even, for example, these are the scientific publications, in the last 20 years. So a lot of our scientists have published on neural networks, 690 to 1800 papers, 2400. But on the other hand, on groundwater, there have been 11, 29, and 70, and so on. So we see that there is really poor incentives for the students or for the professors at our elite institutions to really focus on, potholed streets, or on why did Chiplun flood or Kolhapur flood. So this is the real problem. So this, that the knowledge provisioning for development is inadequate and it's not really working. So are there any quick questions, or I hope am I clear enough for what's happening?
Question?
Can I continue?
Yeah, so please continue. We'll take questions at the end.
Yeah, okay. So, so there is a disconnect between curricula and research and core development issues. So I think one can easily conclude this. We have the data. We know that this is true. So, I think the question is that who is going to do it? So let us look at a simple, let's just sort of dig deeper. So let's look at a taluka bus depot, right? This is MSRTC, public transport. So we know that out of 2000, out of the 250 taluka bus depots, about 180 are loss making. So, and then we have this basic data, how many are the employees, staff strength, and so on. And then if I look at a particular taluka, this is Shahpur taluka next to in Thane district. So we know that this blue are the routes, and these are the villages which are not covered. then we know that what's the punctual. I mean, if we go and study there, we understand that the punctuality is, about 40% of the buses are late by more than 10 minutes or 20 minutes. And then the earnings are pretty bad. So we understand how the school and college timetables work, how is the bus timetable working, and we can really make a comparison. By the same token, I mean, really what happens, the mismatch between the timetables really tell us that how do students actually, high school students reach their school? So most of them are walking. So if it's more than 10 kilometers, they tend to take a jeep. But otherwise, most of our students are really walking to school in that taluka. So we see that, that a poor matching of timetables of school, college, markets, and the bus timetable, and this sort of understanding the GIS, the geography of it, actually is producing very poor outcomes. By the same token, if you look at drinking water, very similar. We see this is the census data for 2001. This is census for 2011. We see that this red part is where the drinking water source is more than 500 meters away, and that's increased from 2001 to 2011. And now, of course, 2021, there's no census, so it's going to happen 2024. So we don't really know. So if you see what the data says, what are the failed water supply schemes and so on, from this basic analysis, you will see that our engineers don't really know how to analyze or how to design water supply scheme effectively for smaller hamlets and so on. They may be able to design water supply schemes for bigger towns, but not so for rural water supply. So essentially, if you look at what is to be done, for MSRTC, we can say bus dispatch times are not clocked, occupancy not tracked, so and so is not happening. Similarly, for water supply, we see that groundwater sources are not tested. So we understand why this failure is happening, right? So if you study this, it's pretty clear why this failure is happening. But more importantly, we see that all of this analysis can be easily done by regional colleges. They are like consultancy projects. You go to a taluka bus depot, a team of 3 or 4 students can easily uncover what's going wrong and produce a consultancy report and give it to the the ST depot, that this is what is going wrong. So if our colleges actually did this, that would enhance their reputation. It would give a new sort of skill set to the student, and it would benefit the enterprise and, of course, improve development outcomes. Okay, so this is the sort of understanding that we began. So that is how we began the Unnat Maharashtra Abhiyan. So it's basically instead of the old university, where there's people, and they prepare employees, the new university, we said that the university actually analyzes, the state and the private sector, it designs new jobs, and it advises and reports and guides the people, right? So essentially, the university is not somebody who prepares employees, but it is a civil society role for the university. So you have to innovate on pedagogy, innovate on curriculum, how to get students out of the college, out of the campus, and into the field. So this was the design, and that's how we set up the Unnat Maharashtra Abhiyan. So that's the so essentially, it says in the preamble that it wants to reform teaching curricula and train future professionals, enable institutions to work, provide the data and funding, and provide mechanism for citizens to approach institutions. So a Gram Panchayat can write to a UMA under UMA to an institution, say, hey, boss, we think our water is polluted. Can you please analyze it? Can you please test it for us? So the GR really enables this to happen. So if you see another picture, so social structure picture, it really is based on this assumption that development outcomes will need good research and curricula. Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. Yeah, research and curricula, and then that is how job descriptions will improve. So better research and curricula and will improve job descriptions of the the Krishi Sahayak or the section engineer and so on. And that would improve development outcome. So we've already seen, there are many social structure assumptions which are coded into the design of the UMA program. So UMA working strategy was to pick government departments, understand how they work, and train colleges for typical problems which arise in these departments. So be it the water conservation department, be it energy, MSCDCL, public transport, and so on, and to provide engagement with civil society. So, for us, for the UMA program, GR, the government regulation, the policy, was the key, sort of a key textbook, which was used to design all of these stuff. So a lot of GRs have come. The state has supported it in many ways. Allowed for schemes and so on. So by the way, if you compare the UBA versus the UMA, there is substantial difference. So first of all, most of the development subjects really come under the state sector. Sadak, Bijli, Pani are state subjects. So UMA is the state is really the right place to be doing such things. And of course, the purpose is also different. It is not really sensitization, but it's professionalization of the development agenda and curriculum within institutions. So I don't think UBA at the center can really drive this thing. But of course, there are many common methods. The importance of field work, multi-stakeholder analysis, all of this is common. So there are commonalities, but there are many differences as well. So these are some snapshots from students at work, faculty members at work. And these are some of the studies that, so about, I think maybe more than 200 studies have come out of UMA, and they've been given to various cities, towns, villages, Jilla Parishads, district collectors, and so on. So this, interesting field work, visiting places and understanding what's going on. And case studies have happened in various sectors, and they have been graded: good quality case studies, bad, medium, and so on. And colleges have now gotten a sort of labeling: ki we are a UMA A grade college, we are a UMA B grade college, and work has happened in all these talukas in these places in Maharashtra. So there was considerable government of Maharashtra buy-in, but I think the academia was not really ready to work with the government. So is this really science? If I'm studying drinking water, what connection does it have with? I'm studying the community. Then civil engineers would ask, but is this civil engineering or is this social work? Is it NSS? What about my promotion? Are there publications, and so on? So really, there are very serious incentive problems that we continue to face. I think it's gaining traction, but really the incentives, the faculty and the institutional incentives is a problem. So that comes to my last part, the third part. So last year we began with Aaple Prashna, Aaple Vidyan, which is a case study method. So basically something which is not really connected so much to the state, something which is much more lightweight and much more accessible. So by the way, Aaple Prashna, Aaple Vidyan means my problem, or our problem, our science, right? So it just says ki, my village, my cropping pattern, my charai, and a lot of it is actually conducted in Marathi. So it's not English, but in the regional. So it began with the science, arts, local, rural colleges. So directly talking to the students, telling them about employment, what awaits them in the city. For example, here is from a boy from Konkan, traveling to send Valentine's oranges, Zepto or whatever. So this is the future. So we're telling the students that, you are in BA, BSc or BCom, what sort of skills are really useful for you. You should understand what they are useful for. And telling them what is the employment data, that 30% of graduates are unemployed. So do you want to be one of them, or do you want to be different? What sort of skills do you need? So a lot of explanation. Ki, hey, ka hota hai? So essentially it's saying that your social experience is not adequate. Your understanding of society and ability to document problems, all these things need to improve. So, also then Aaple Prashna, Aaple Vidyan, that you pick a problem in the immediate vicinity, and engage and let's try to weave it into your college curriculum. Use the NEP, use the curriculum CBCS, the choice-based credit system, and find mechanisms by which you can do small studies and go out and learn to document your neighborhood. So this is what we did with 14 colleges in Ratnagiri district and in Konkan, really rural, from Devgarh, Devrug, Mahad, then Kankoli, 2 from Chiplun, so a lot of Goregaon and Khed. So small colleges, telling them how can they do field work, study small problems and understand interdisciplinary skills. So that is how this Aaple Prashna, Aaple Vidyan has actually evolved. So if you see, and then we also talked to the BDO, got the college connected to the BDO, understand. So these are some balance sheet of Kaju factory, Churmura factory, Anganwadi, drinking water. I mean, very small things. So not really the big ticket, engineering asset driven studies, but very small topical studies. And these were the 14 colleges. And so a result of this particular intervention was that the Ratnagiri IAS officer, when he got to hear of this, he said, well, that's really nice. So here are 20 tanker-fed villages, right? And I'm willing to give you 20,000 rupees per village. Give me a report. And so, 4 lakh, he gave us 4 lakh rupees for 20 reports, 20 village reports. And what did he want? He basically, this is the village. You tell me where the wadis are, where are the drinking water sources, which are good, which are bad, and prepare a list of the habitation, the number of households, etc. So 4 colleges: Guhagar, Chiplun, Ratnagiri, and Lote Parshuram, and Chiplun. They did it. So this was an outcome of the AP Aaple Paryavaran program. So these are some, there was a training workshop, and, actually working with students, training them to undertake this study, develop methodology, how to assess a village, how to understand drinking water in a village. So these are really small 5-day case studies, and students really did it. And coming out, we have 20 or 25 really good field workers who understand, who can document. So let me end this. So really, I mean, if you see that what we've been looking at are how do different structures of society, narratives of how does society really work, decides what sort of academics, what do we want to teach. For example, in school, we say socialization is the objective. But at high school, maybe understanding the structure of society. So for example, what was the APAV, Aaple Paryavaran, was really telling students, look, in a typical village, there's a collector, district collector, there's a sutar, carpenter, there's a sarpanch, there are citizens, there are homemakers, and they are interacting with each other. So, for example, the carpenter throughout the year delivers a lot of tools to the farmer. The farmer chooses to become a citizen and elect the sarpanch. The homemaker goes for haldi kumkum, and where she meets other ladies, right? And understand what sort of, so there are a lot of these transactions which are happening. So this is the way. So there is no real, so it's like a pre-state understanding of how society works. Understand basic supply, demand, and allocation, and understand, basic stakeholders. For example, how do I analyze a student mess? So what do students do? They elect the secretary, students pay bill to facility, and so on. So it's like, understanding basic transactional society at some very elementary level. So that drove, if you understand the UMA program, earlier engineering quality, had a different structure, and this program had a much more limited social structure. So this is my last slide. So if you see, the APAV was really based on, this model where we have we have various agents, and we understand how they interact, local agents, household agents, and we try to understand the society in terms of environment, state, and so on. While the earlier UMA program had a bigger ambit, it was, it's a bigger agencies and bigger social institutions, and a bigger way of organizing how a profession develops. So in this sense, this is more a professional, more a professional agenda, while this is more a social, a social comprehension agenda. And the outcomes are quite different. So I think, let me stop here. And so I hope I've connected how social structure and how to design a program at various higher education levels with different expectations. So let me stop here. So I hope I've stayed in I was given, I think, 30 minutes. So I hope I have stayed within that.
Yes, very much. Thank you, sir. We have time to take only 2 questions. So does anyone have any questions we can ask, sir?
I hope it was not a big deviation from what's been going on. I'm really sorry I could not come, but I've been traveling a lot.
No, sir, that's perfectly fine. It was a very interesting discussion. And we wish you good health. I mean, hope you recover soon.
Yeah,
yes, we have a question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, this is not a question. I just want to appreciate the kind of work that you are doing, Professor Soni. And I am Kashyapi from NEPA, and in fact, this.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
He's not able to hear you.
Sorry,
Vijay?
is it audible now?
Yeah, now it is. Now it is.
Okay, okay. I am Kashyapi from NEPA.
Yeah,
This is not.
it's gone again. It's gone again.
I think she can use that.
It's come back.
Okay.
It's just
So
coming and going, I think. Am
yes,
I always audible? I was
yes,
always
yes,
audible,
you
right?
Yes,
were
we could hear
audible.
you.
You were audible. So this is the system that we also need to work with to really understand why is it coming
Yeah,
and
yeah,
going.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, knowledge shortage all the ways, right?
Yes, yes. Just appreciation for the kind of work, and it kind of connects the university system with the field of work, the real life, the industry for that matter, and more of
Yeah,
like we talk of CSR, but this is the individual social responsibility, I think. And it's
yeah.
like be the system that you want to, I mean, be the change that you want to see. I think that kind of perspective. So just loved it. Thank you.
Thank you. No, yeah. Thank you very much. Actually, I must share a secret that I did my graduate school at University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, I think 30 years ago. And it's a public school, public university. And its mission and vision statement and how it conducts itself has had a very big impression on me.
Yes, there's one more question.
Thank you, Professor Milind, for this wonderful talk. So it's really great that you could do all this work with your IIT Bombay students. I was also part of Unnat Maharashtra Abhiyan in IIT Gandhinagar. So what I felt was,
Yeah.
there was a challenge in actually getting students to be committed to this task.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
one thing, unless it is integrated into the curriculum, if we have some assessments, sometimes we gave this
Yeah.
UBA participation as a form of punishment. So
Yeah,
that it
exactly.
is like 100 hours of community work. So I used to engage them in Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, like if there is some semester issues, etc. So
Yeah.
how do you think in a higher education structure should be kind of
Yeah, so
reformed or
yeah, that's a very important observation. I think that first of all, IIT students, they have come there for a different story, different career outcome, right? And their interest, I mean, for them, this is plan B. Okay, plan A is to get a finance job or an IT job with a major multinational major, right? So I think that you see the that's what I was saying, that the incentive structure at the faculty and student level is really messed up, and I think the elite university is causing a lot of distortion in student expectations, right? So what we in the APAV program, we really went after the bottom 80%, who have no jobs, so we are just telling them that, boss, do you want to become like a Swiggy delivery guy? Go to now you then you better learn, start, if you don't, then you better start doing. So I think we started talking to people who had a problem with what they were learning. So I think IIT students plan B needs to be sold at a different in a different, like what I've done it with IITB students is say that do you want a consulting job, then you better pick a taluka bus depot and prepare a consultancy report. Go there, understand why it's not profitable, and understand the workshop, understand the routes, plot it up, and file a report. So that's good training for you for consultancy. If you when you appear for an interview, they're going to ask you about this, not about what they, I mean, that's just going to change the interview.
Similarly, at the school level, we used to have this NSS. I don't know how much it is there now, wherein the
Yeah,
NSS
yeah,
students
yeah.
were engaged in these activities.
Yeah, so
The
yeah, so
slowly.
actually, even NSS, you see, in that's what I was saying. Urbana-Champaign, pollution, water, drinking water is regarded as engineering and not as social work. You see, we think. I mean, when I give this talk, some typical principal. I mean, today some principal told me, yeah, we actually work with Anath Ashram. I mean, come on. I mean, is this what we have come down to? I think that the social service and professional societal understanding are two very different things. So it just shows that the economics or engineering have a total disconnect with what is really happening with society. So they think working with society suddenly becomes like a CSR or a ashram chala, anath ashram, sweeping the platforms or something like that. Picking up garbage for what other, cleaning up our beaches and so on.
Recently, Government of India has launched one project, sir. I'm forgetting the name. I was trying to go back and look at it, where they are kind of incentivizing students and university to take up such kind of projects, and they have chosen, in fact, some of those aspirational districts under those Niti Aayog aspirational district projects. They picked up the border area villages and where universities can actually put up their students, and different set of activities have also been listed out, and where the BDOs or the collectors would be supporting the kind of logistics and things like that for the students. So one such initiative has come up.
Yeah, I think that's good. I mean, that will help. But I think the elephant in the room is the IITs and the whatever national SPA, School of Planning and Architecture, or there are these apex agencies which need to change the way they are held accountable. For example, 80% of IIT students don't work in Indian companies for Indian customers. Now, unless this is brought out and people understand that this is not really why we had designed the IITs. So I think that otherwise they just do good, aspirational district, then some well-meaning individuals, faculty members. No, for example, I'm not promoted because I do this. I'm promoted because I publish papers in international journals.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I think that was a very interesting. Yeah, and I think Kashyapi's point about individual social responsibility is really valid. Something that stood out to us all of today is integrating different fields and sort of taking that onus for systems change on each individual unit of the system. Thank you very much, Dr. Sohoni, for a very enlightening talk. And
thanks. I'm really sorry I could not come. I saw the ending ceremony of the last year. I really miss. It looked like a nice crowd and nice, interesting crowd.
Yeah, we missed you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for taking the effort to come online. With that, we come to the close. Yes.
Okay. So please, thank you very much. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
So with that, we come to the close of day one of our symposium. Coming to a couple of quick announcements. First is there is a bus service organized for those of you who want to go into the city. And at 6:30, the bus will be waiting right outside Vikram Sarabhai block. So that's at 6:30. Secondly, when you go out this door, there is a QR code. And if you scan it, it takes you through a couple of steps to access your own photographs. So it uses face recognition to send you your pictures that were taken today. So please make use of this facility to get all nice pictures for LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever. And thirdly, a small request, we have limited copies of the reports that we had placed outside. So if you have finished reading them, please do place them back on the table. Thank you. So thank you very much for being a lovely audience and for really making this first day a great success. We will see you tomorrow for more insights, observations, and thoughts from yet another lineup of stalwarts. Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you very much.